So hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today's video is going to be part of my Python basic series, and the topic of this video is classes and objects. So basically what we are going to study here is object oriented programming in Python, and why we want to study this is because object oriented programming serves an essential part in almost all the major level programming languages like Java, like JavaScript, and now Python as well. So we need object oriented programming to actually model our real life scenarios into our programmatical language. Okay, so guys, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for further notifications and for future videos as well. And now let's get started. Okay, so first of all, how we can declare a class in Python? It is really simple. There is one keyword which is used in Python to declare a class, and that keyword is called as class. So basically you have to write class and the name of your class. For example, let's model a real life scenario here. Let's suppose I am a computer manufacturer company and I want to basically sell computers to the people, but that computer can have different parameters. So what I will do is I will create a sort of template and I will call that template as computer. Okay. Now I have created my computer class here, and I basically want to specify all the different attributes of this class. And what are the attributes? They are the features, they are the parameters which can change over time. For example, I am a computer manufacturer company, and my computers can have a different RAM size, they can have a different color, they can have different screen size, so they can have all sort of different features. Okay, it depends upon the customer what feature they like and then what computer they want to buy. Okay, so I will create my my computer class, and I will specify all those attributes here, and these attributes are also called as instance variable. So let's suppose I specified the RAM, and I also am allowing here to give them a default value. So for example, in our case, I am giving RAM as 16. So whenever somebody will buy a computer from me, by default that computer will have a RAM size of 16. But if he or she wants, he can increase the size or he can have a different parameter computer as well. But let's suppose for now it's 16. Now you will say, okay, so I am a computer manufacturer company. I created a computer and I made it, and by default the RAM size is 16. Now a customer comes up to me and he wants to buy a computer. What I will do? I will simply go to the factory and I will start producing them in mass production, right? So that I can sell them to my customer. But each and every customer will have his own computer. Okay, each and every customer will have his or her own computer. So their computer will have their own properties. So these are called as objects. Okay, so what happens is that there is one guy who comes over to me and he says that I want to buy a computer. So now I will take this template and I will just create an object of it, and then I will sell it to that customer. How to create an object of it? Very simple. All you have to do is create a variable, and let's suppose I create a variable called as comp1, and I will assign it my computer class object, and there it is. Okay, so now I will sell this comp1 to my customer, and now my customer goes home and he wants to basically find out or just double check what is the RAM size of the computer which I have purchased. So now he will just say comp1 dot RAM, and you can see the RAM size of the computer class is actually printed here. Okay, so that is how you can create an object of a class. You can print their values and basically access them. Okay, now you can have, now in my case I am just using one variable, one instance variable. You can definitely have like multiples of them, and we will also see that how we can declare multiple variables, but it's not anything different. Another thing which is very important about the class is called as an init function. Okay, What is the init function? If you guys are familiar with Java, there is a concept called as constructor. So in Python, that's the exact same concept. Basically, init function means that you want to initialize your class. So if I write here init, then it is basically initializing your class. And let's see how we can basically use it. So we create a class called as computer here. Let's create it again. And I have a function here called as init. So init is actually a default function which is always there in any class. Whenever there is a class which is created, whenever its object gets created, then this init function is called by default. So if I don't specify it, it doesn't matter, it will still get called. And this init function is used to initialize the object of a class. So for example, if I want that my computer should have some variables initialized when the object is first created, then I can basically override this init function and write all those values here. For example, I am writing here RAM and screen. So there are two variables in my computer class and I want to initialize both of them. So one is the RAM size and another is the screen size. Now people might be wondering, oh, so she specified the RAM, she specified the screen in this function called as init. And now what is this self? So self is basically a variable which refers to the class itself. Okay, so this self basically means that it is pointing to the objects of the class. This is a reference variable of the class itself. So if you guys have studied Java, in Java we had something called as this. So if you have any variable like this.a or this.b, it basically means that these are the variables belonging to the object of this class. Okay. Basically, you can use this self to point to that class object, to point to that class variables, but it doesn't matter that I have been calling it here self. It is just a sort of convention that we use self in case of Python. But if I name this anything, for example, if I name it myself, then also if I write something like this, myself dot RAM equals to RAM, myself dot screen equals to screen. This is exactly same if I would have just written self. But in most of the Python code, you will find the self variable very commonly used because this is a very common or a standard naming convention of self variable. Okay, but basically you can name this anything and you can just access it. Okay, so now I have this init function here, and in this init function I am initializing the RAM and the screen size of a computer. And now let's create another function called as, let's suppose, print function. So I have some function called as print computer, and this function is simply printing the RAM size and also the screen size. So this function is just printing the values. And obviously in this function also, if you want to access these RAM and screen variables, you have to write self and then self.ram and self.screen. So now you see that my computer class is created. Now I will create an object of this computer class. So let's create the object as comp1. So comp1 becomes equals to computer. And now you see, in my previous example, I was not passing anything in the computer because the init function was not overridden. It was not asking for any variables, but here my init function is overridden and it is asking for RAM and screen variables to be given so that we can initialize them. So here I have to specify RAM and screen size. So for example, my RAM is 32 GB here and my screen size is 15 inches. So now I created a computer class, computer1 object, and now this computer1 dot print computer. So if I call this print computer method here, you will see that it prints that the RAM size of this object is 32 and the screen size of this object is 15. You see what I have achieved using this. So using this class, I am actually able to create multiple objects with different parameters. For example, if I am a computer manufacturing company, I have just installed one machine which is actually building computers, and I'm just changing some parameters into it. And it is able to create a 15-inch computer, it is able to create a 20-inch or a 10-inch computer, or a 32 GB RAM computer, or a 16 GB RAM computer. So for example, if some other customer comes and he says, I don't want such heavy configuration, I want a 16 GB and 12-inch computer, that's it, that's what I want. So now I will create another object for that customer called as comp2, and this object will have those lower configurations. So this will be having 16 GB and let's suppose 12-inch of screen. So now if I print comp2 dot print computer, then you will see that the RAM size is 16 and the screen size is 12. But in this example, you have also seen that if you want to call a function over a class object, you just write dot and the name of the function and the brackets. But if I want to directly access the variables of that object, then you can also do that. So if I just write here comp.ram, then you can directly access the variable of an object as well. So comp2.ram is 16, but comp1.ram is 32 because earlier it was initialized with 32 GB. Okay. So this init function is basically used to initialize any object, and the self parameter also I have explained to you that you can use the self parameter to basically access the variables of that object. And now we have something called as delete. So as you have followed my other videos as well, Dell keyword is basically used to delete the entire object. So if you create a list, if you create a tuple and you just write Dell and the tuple name or a list name, the object gets deleted. So now if I write here Dell comp1, you will see that if I want to access comp1, like comp1.ram, I will get an error that comp1 is not defined. Okay. So that is why if you use Dell, you can delete an object. And another thing which is same as that of functions as well, if you want to create an empty class, for example, if I create a class called as laptop here, and for example, I am a computer manufacturing company and I have just been producing desktops, but I want to produce laptop in future, I don't have the machinery for it. So I will just create an empty class for now, just for reference in future. And then when I will get the machinery, when I will be having the resources, I can complete this class and I will start selling laptops as well. Okay. So just to overview this chapter because it's really important. So if you want to create a class, just use class keyword, and you can initialize a class using init function where you have to specify self, which is a pointer to the current variables of that class object, and then you can pass all the variables which you want to initialize. And if you are printing, if you are creating any object, you just have to add the class name and the brackets and all the arguments which you want to initialize using the init method. If you want to call any function, just use object name dot function. If you want to call any variable, just write object name dot variable. And there is one more thing here. So if I just use something called as comp2.ram, you can see that I printed my RAM. You can also change the value of this object by just simply assigning it. So if I change the RAM from 16 GB to 8 GB, you see that if I do something like this and I try to print RAM again, you will see that the RAM value is changed. But however, I would say that this can be done, but it is not encouraged. So in Python, not unlike Java, we do not have something called as private, or we do not have something called as access control mechanism. So you can directly access the variable of a class and you can directly change their values, but it is not something which is advisable. You should always change the variables using their methods, using the methods of that class. So although it is possible, I would not suggest that in an object-oriented programming paradigm we should directly change the value of object to variables. But hopefully guys this video was clear to you. In the future videos we'll be working with a lot of class and object things, and I hope now this is clear. So guys, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for further notifications. So thank you so much everyone. Stay safe, stay home, and bye bye.